I want to say a couple of things about criticizing those who are close to you and how easy that is, and how it's about you want to make them better, and that happens more than with your enemies, to be honest. I don't want it to sound patronizing when you say you do that sort of thing out of love for them and out of wanting to improve them because you're close to them. So I can think of two people, maybe three. Okay, I'm not super close to them, but I'd regard them as sort of friends in that area. Like, I like what they're doing. I try and talk to them on social media a bit. I mean, they're not friends in a, like I haven't met these particular people in person. I've just talked to them online. Just a couple of people who I generally like the stuff they're doing. They're like content creator. I hate that phrase. Fucking, they make stuff online. They make videos and streams and stuff. And like, I overall generally like what they're doing, but I have to be critical and tell them. See, I struggle telling them that some of the things they do are silly, in my opinion, or maybe not silly, but they could be not doing these things, or doing some things better, and they're doing things that are damaging to them, and I wish I could say, don't do those things, it'll improve you if you don't do those things. And yes, like, I don't think I criticize enemies in the same way. Like, for enemies, like some fucking commie, you know you can't change them. You can't change their mind about anything. They're definitely doing things you're 100% against all the time. It's in their nature. There's a stubbornness of both camps, like your enemies or your friends you want to criticize. But you want to talk to and get through to and change the mind of your friends when they do something a bit wrong. But you don't want to change the mind of, or particularly talk to or win over your enemies when they do something wrong, because you know they're just like that and they can't be won over or fixed, sort of thing. I can think of two people at least. I might be able to think of a third. I won't say explicitly who they are, but I think if they saw this, they'd probably know who they are, and if you've seen them, based on what they've been saying or doing, if you've seen them before, you'd know who they are. But it's not really about their identity, it's about what they're doing that is counterproductive to themselves. One dude is a gender neutral term. One dude, he's doing hiking stuff and camping stuff, and he's unhealthy. He takes things along with him on his trips that he really doesn't need to take, that are part of the reason that his health is in steep decline, and he wants to do all these outdoorsy things, but he struggles with his health. I mean, he's a very affable guy, he's nice, he's kind of local to the area-ish. He wants to be doing this, he wants to be a guy who goes hiking and camping and stuff, and produces videos on that and shows his travels and where he's been, kind of like me. And we've all got some health concerns. I know I've got health concerns I'm trying to get a hold on somewhat, but you know, when I'm at work, I think nearly everyone at work is more overweight than me. So when I tell them, like, I'm trying to keep fit, I'm trying to do this and that for my exercises, I'm trying to get healthy, they're like, what are you talking about? You're skinny. And I'm like, I'm not skinny. I'm not going to say that it's just your perspective as someone who is fat, but I'm not skinny. I'm average. I keep getting to a point where I'm overweight. It's just that from your perspective, you're way more overweight than me, so maybe I'm too polite in a lot of ways. I don't tell people that. But yeah, we've all got health concerns, and you know, I think he said in his most recent video, which his most recent video he did was like I think it was a clip from some larger hikes he'd done, but it was like a catastrophe. Should I just say it outright? I don't know how you can be unspecific or vague about this and pussyfoot around the issue. Like, he nearly exploded his he nearly blew up. He nearly blew up. He was messing around. He gets frequently tired when he does his camps. He gets tired from the exercise and he cuts trips short that he wants longer. and then he spends a lot of time sleeping in his tent. I mean, I get it, I do too. I try and get a hike in, but sometimes you'll hike into the location, you put the tent, you want to set up the tent, you might get a little bit of walking in, but mostly you're like, you want to set up camp and then you want to rest for a bit outside the tent and cook and then sleep inside the tent and hope that you have a comfortable night, which most of the time you don't really. You sometimes get one or two here and there, but camping can be uncomfortable, especially if you don't select the right gear. And he's always bringing these giant backpacks around with him, super heavy. Again, so am I. I want to take my stuff down to ultralight. I can see that my backpack weight is a problem and I want to improve that. I want to stop that. Just like with my health, I can see that that's a problem. I want to improve that. I want to stop what I'm doing. Yeah, I just think there's things he does nearly every trip that are detrimental to his health, and he can't get into his health regime. He can't like find a way into this health regime, but it's cool that he's kind of admitted it. He's like admitted that he's unhealthy, so it's not just like us as viewers not wanting to hurt his feelings by telling him he's fat or whatever. I don't want to sound like one of these interventionists. You know, I'm an ANCAP. I'm libertarian. I think each person should be able to pick their poison and take their own risks and live their life the way they want to, including just, you know, if you want to be dangerous, you be dangerous, but, you know, listen to the encouragement of your friends. Sometimes they're trying to help you, is all I'd say. They're not trying to force you to get fit or get slim. They're just trying to help you. Yeah, so it's good that he admits that that's happening, but I mean, he brings like alcohol on his camping trips, which is a heavy weight thing, adds to the weight of your pack, and he's always bring like, I don't know, 3 big cans plus of alcohol, and then he's got his cooking stuff, and I think all his tent gear and stuff he brings with him is too much weight, and sometimes he's in this sleepy state where he's not watching where he's doing. And I think that's kind of how he was a little bit clumsy and did this thing where basically he was almost having a fire in his tent. He was having a fire in his tent. He managed to put it out in time, but I mean, that could have killed him. And that's why I don't like cooking food in the vestibule bit of your tent. You know, you've got the outer skin of your tent and the inner skin of your tent, and then there's a gap, and people kind of like to cook in there with fire, and it's just like, I'm not really sure. I've always been very iffy about doing that. I don't think I've even done that once so far, because it's just like you've got a flame under the walls of your tent, which is like the fabric house that you're living in, and you just start a fire with you in your tent, which is not a good thing. And he almost did. Luckily, the walls of his tent didn't catch fire, but the funny thing I think is that he recorded that on video, like, to show people. I don't know why you would. I mean, it's very dramatic and things. It's the drama you might want to show people, the drama of something big happening, but also, like, wouldn't you be ashamed of making such a foolish or dumb kind of error which would put your life in danger, such as setting your tent on fire with you in it? It's like, oh my god. So yeah, I would, if I was gonna give constructive criticism to the guy, I would say try and pack light, try and get healthier, pack light, try and, you know, pursue the fitness that you want to pursue. Get to a stage where you've got more energy and you're more awake when you're doing your camping stuff. Try to be less kind of clumsy and more mindful of what you're doing. Don't cook food in the vestibule, because you're just going to... I mean, there's lots of things that are shorten your life when you're unhealthy. I mean, like, you'd be shortening your life by being unhealthy, but you'd also be shortening your life by messing around with fire on a windy trip up a mountain. So that's just one person. The second person, she's a bit of a normie. She has a job similar to me. She makes internet content, if you want to call it that. Internet video type things. Politically, She's not like me, but she's not like an extreme lefty or anything. But she is partially influenced that way. She's a normie. She also has some influence towards freedom side of things, but not enough, I would say. I don't think she gets it. For instance, she is against the Online Safety Act and digital ID stuff, but she doesn't really understand freedom principles. She doesn't understand the root of any of that stuff, because kind of like a leftist or a feminist, she's still getting triggered and offended at things. I mean, this happens with a lot of normies. Like, this happens with a lot of conservatives who blab about freedom and then they're nothing to actually do with freedom. On the other side of things, from the person I'm talking about, there are normies who lean left, there's normies who lean conservative, who in a roundabout way also lean left. They occasionally stray into like parroting things they've heard about freedom talking points, but not understanding what that means enough for it to be actually one of their principles. And so, I mean, I like this girl. We're more distant now than we were in the past, shall we say. She's got a job similar to mine, and every now and then in her videos and stuff, she'll say some normie shit, and then she'll bump into some freedom issues and go, yeah, I agree with that. We should definitely not be like banning people or censoring things, but you know, it's one of those things where she says something like that, but she doesn't actually mean it, because she doesn't understand the core of that, where it comes from, and the freedom principles in general. So, not actually a libertarian or anything. Strays into both sides. So she'll say that sort of thing on her videos from time to time, and then on her videos she's also talking about life stuff, and she talks about her job. And she's kind of got a bugbear, if that is the phrase. She's kind of got something bugging her at the moment that keeps coming back, like she circles back around to this issue multiple times. Like she lands on it, talks about it a bit, leaves, and for a few days and stuff, she's talking about other shit for quite a time. And then she comes back to this subject again, which is like rude customers at work, essentially. She has a problem with essentially the speech of a customer, and the thing she brings to like try and tell her fans and her viewership why it's a problem for her are just like her feelings. And this girl, in a partially free speech way, she will talk about, let's say, rude things herself. She will talk about offensive things, then she'll talk about how she gets offended at things, and then she'll say some stuff that would definitely offend tons of people, and say, oh, you shouldn't be offended by me saying this sort of stuff. It could be like naughty stuff, lewd stuff, like sexy stuff, adult content sort of thing. And she'll go from saying this, she won't go the full way into saying like slurs or like the taboo words sort of thing, like most libertarians and anarchists would easily do.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Like, she won't go that far, and then she'll like have rules in the bit of her videos where it's live with an audience. She'll have like these like rules for speaking, and then when she's actually talking to her fans, she'll be loose with the rules and say, you can't, oh, we're all friends here, you don't have to fully adhere to the rules. So she's kind of all over the place, as normies are with their principles. They don't really have a political principle. They're just like pick and choose random stuff. They don't really know why they're doing it. They're just influenced by media and government and films and friends and all this stuff. They don't have their own like principles, shall we say. Like, I'm a hardcore this and I know why I'm this, whether it be conservative or leftist or anarchist or libertarian or objectivist or whatever, monarchist or whatever. So she's contradicting herself. And yeah, she'll say things that she'll know people will be offended by, and she'll say like, don't be offended at what I'm saying. Hey, I like being offensive. If you're offended by what I'm saying, you should leave, blah blah blah. This is not for you. And then in the same breath, she'll like 2 seconds later, she'll be playing the victim And then this issue is in her job. A customer comes in, and kind of like she does in her videos, he'll say something naughty, mean, not intended to be offensive, but for some reason she gets offended and triggered by it. And I think she said the setting and the context are why I'm like offended. Like, I don't want this happening in my job. I just want this happening when I come back home from my job, from me. But I don't want it happening to me while I'm in my job. And it's kind of like, these are the same things that you yourself, they're basically the same things. You've said like this, my dude, she said things a lot worse basically in her content than the things that she's afraid of in this real life situation. And she's like, this sort of behavior and this speech makes me uncomfortable, and I have got my staff to make it so that this customer never sees me again or interacts with me. I don't know whether her business has banned this guy or not, but it's kind of like where I worked. The last business I worked, they were like banning customers for speech. And then they were making excuses for it, where they went, "Oh no, he's not banned for speech," even though that's the initial reason why it happened. But it was something else. It was this other thing to cover their asses. But basically, the reason they banned the customer is that they said something while buying their food or whatever in front of a staff member, and that staff member got triggered and offended because they couldn't control their emotional reactions to things. And, you know, I'm a free speech kind of guy, so I'm always about this sort of stuff. Like, you should be able to say anything, and the appropriate response to someone saying something that someone else doesn't like shouldn't be that the person who didn't like it bans them or deplatforms them or tries to stop them coming to this place, this business, or speaking. Or that there should be like some physical penalty to them for speaking. The correct response is your own speech against it. You know, call them an asshole, call them a dickhead if they've said this to you. Tell them you don't like what they said to you, and they shouldn't be saying that to you. Not that they shouldn't be saying that to you, but that you don't like it, and reasons why, or just call them an insult back, sort of thing. Use your speech against them. Do not use like systems of control against them, or censoring tools, bannings, blockings, and the physical versions of banning and blocking and deplatforming. And if you can't say things back to them after they've said something you don't like, or that you think is gross or disgusting, or like, you shouldn't be banning them or whatever, you should be saying stuff back to them. But if you can't say stuff back to them because of maybe your job, like the business you're in, your managers and the CEO, the rulers of your job, your higher ups in the job, and the rules set down by your job stop you from responding to the customer by saying, "Oh, fuck yourself," or "fuck off," or insert slur at this random person. If your job is stopping you doing that, then the whole problem with that interaction that happened is your job and your managers and the job's rules. It's not the person who said the mean thing to you. It's your job for suppressing your speech to say things back to them. That is what I would say to that girl, is that, just like I say to everyone else, and I'm surprised she got like that, and I'm surprised she keeps circling back to this customer issue. Don't be offended, don't be triggered, don't say this makes me feel uncomfortable and so I need to seek this system of control to shut this person up. Just speak back to them. You know, either don't say anything at all, or if they say it again to you and you're in a better position to respond to them. And if your job's stopping you respond to them, leave that job. I know it may be supplying you with money you need to live, but we've got to find better ways of being. You know, if you want to keep your job, then don't let that person's speech bother you. If your job is stopping you respond to them, then respond to them outside of work maybe, or just hold your tongue, don't respond to them at all. Try not to have that reaction, the emotional reaction to that thing. That's what I'm always trying to tell people is, yeah, if you can self-control your emotions and your emotional reaction to speech, then that's a good thing. It's a lot of a better thing to do than to use your offense to create weapons against speech. Like, everyone should be able to say essentially the worst things that you can think of, because that means that everyone can say anything they want, including people who you like. Like, no one can go into other areas of speech and confiscate that ability from you to talk. And you know, the government can't harness that to silence and censor everyone from saying things. Give me a moment and maybe I'll think of a third person. There are other people who I know who I want to do better. You know, there's one person I can think of who we used to talk all the time about all sorts of stuff, all sorts of shit, all sorts of topics, and he was the one who inspired me to be skeptical initially, not to believe anything you read in the papers or just in general that people say. Like, just don't believe in what people say, no matter who they are. Like, question it. The root of my skepticism, my ability to rebel in that way and to resist and to just not believe information that I'm told. Okay, Robin, chill. Can I hear a dog? That might be approaching. Oh no, there's a dog already in the park? Oh yeah, of course. But I think there might be a second dog somewhere. Distracting. Yeah, and this guy, yeah, he taught me how to be skeptical about everything, and we always talk about all sorts of things, all sorts of different subjects. I guess not enough subjects for my liking, but we'd talk about lots of things like existentialism was a big thing. Like, I like to talk to him about, like, what is the world? How can you prove that people dream? What happens after life after death? Is there an afterlife? You know, what are the stars? What is beyond the stars? What is history? All these things I used to talk to him about. And now he hardly talks at all, really. And I'm trying to broaden the amount of subjects he talks about. You know, I'm trying to get him into very simple pop culture. Like, I always thought, like, if I could get him into something simple, like just talking about Batman. I think he said once he's not a fan of the character of Superman for a really dumb reason, that they were filming one of the Superman films somewhere where he went jogging and it was interrupting his jog where they were filming. Something like that. Some reason that made it seemingly impossible for him to look into the fictional character of Superman and identify with him. And then alongside that is like Batman. I'm very interested in Batman. It's a very simple character, very interesting. The heroes and villains and the tale of Batman, I think. There's a lot you can think about there. There's a lot you can read into. And I just thought, like, that's a really simple starting block. If I can get him talking about Batman or something like that, I can get him talking about anything. Like, we can use that as a jumping off point to talk about all sorts of things. And he just wouldn't have it. Even, like, I was just like, can we talk about any subject anymore? And he's at the same time he's adopting these authoritarian ideals later in life, when he was the person who got me into the skepticism of, you know, not being authoritarian, like having free speech, questioning what you hear, being able to say what you want and do what you want and not be harassed by someone, being able to choose your own risk, sort of thing. Like, that was how he was in the past, and now how he is in the present day or future. He's got very controlling, and he simps for a lot of things like monarchy and government and rules, and being friendly to the people who are being very controlling and trying to obey rather than resist, trying to fit into the system and do what the system wants and work within, you know, all the restrictions and regulations. And it's like, this is not who you are. This is not who I remember you as. And you won't talk to me about all the subjects we used to talk about, and I can't get you talking about more subjects. You're just talking about less and less, to the point where we hardly talk at all now. And it's just a shame, that this guy who I've known through my life does not talk about nearly as much as we used to talk about in the past. My constructive criticism to this person in aid of trying to get him to improve and be better would be just to talk about any subject and ignore the politics, ignore the fact that all the people around you are very political and it's probably going to be the opposite politics to what you believe, and people are going to believe in all sorts of different things that you don't like and that you might say are against you politically and what you believe in terms of imposing rules or whatever you think you believe in now that you didn't seem to believe in the past. Like, ignore all that, and if you care about the people who like you, then just talk non-politically to them. Talk about a range of different subjects. You don't have to talk all the time about which person believes in which party and which values for laws and running your life. You can put all that to one side and just talk about Batman. Just talk about the stars, talk about existentialism, talk about history. There are parts of history where you can just talk about what happened and you don't have to dig into all of it with a political lens. Talk about animals you've seen, talk about geography, talk about places you've been, talk about things that you remember, how it was different in the past to how it is now. There's so many subjects, and that's what I'm trying to do with my topic vlogs, is there's so many subjects within each person that we can talk about. We don't have to reduce our field of view to these tiny, like a narrow collection of issues. We can just talk about anything and everything if we want to. We can have something to say, and sometimes it can be coloured by our politics and our worldview. Sometimes it doesn't have to be, and it can be broadly relatable to anyone, quite mild, quite on the fence, just talking about a subject that anyone, regardless of their politics, can understand you on. Like, I like the sound of this bird call. Isn't it beautiful how this animal moves? Isn't this, to bring it to a close, it's better to talk to someone who you know and see often on a wide, broad range of topics than to reduce the amount of topics you think you're able to talk to them on and then eventually end up hardly talking at all to this person who you're close to. And then, as your relationship deteriorates and you get later into your life, you're kind of wasting those years, you're wasting your time not connecting to someone who you could be connecting to, and it could be really easy for you to do so. So yeah, that's what I would say to the third person who again, they're not my enemy. They're someone I like, someone who I'm friends with, or want to be friends with, and who I'd like to give this criticism to, just because I think that they could improve, they could damage themselves less, they could have a better quality of life and do better for themselves. Not that I'm here sitting on my mountain spewing nuggets of knowledge and advice for the best way to live your life. I'm just seeing people I like make mistakes that it would be so easy for them to not do those particular things, and suddenly their quality of life would be improved 50% from what it was. And all it takes is this little step of getting past some stubbornness, some feature of some way you've taken up acting that you could remove really easily, and things would just suddenly go super smoothly for you. Whether it be Dude 1, letting his health go downhill, putting himself in danger in his tent, in his camping voyages. Dude 2, letting themselves get offended by speech and trying to use, censorship tools as a weapon when they could just easily not emotionally react to hearing words said to them, whatever those words not be. Like, the uncomfortableness is a choice. Or whether it be person 3, who has chosen to say less in the face of politics. They've chosen to see the political views around them and think that that's a reason to just shut down their conversation and the subjects they can talk about with those people who they used to talk about everything to. Anyway, thank you for watching.